Hello world, we are at Estabish, Colorado for the Keystone Symposia Modeling Viral Infection and Immunity, and I'm here with two guests.
Hello, I'm Jane Heffernan from York University in Toronto, Canada, and I'm an immunoepidemiologist / mathematical modeler. So I look at modeling within host the development of immunity and looking at memory cells. And then I try to translate this to transmissibility and susceptibility at the population level.
Hi, I'm Narendra Dixit from the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, India. I'm also a mathematical modeler. I look at viral infections with the goal of optimizing treatments and improving our ability to deal with some infections that are currently difficult to deal with.
What was your motivation to attend this symposium?
Well, I'm really interested in looking at in-host modeling and looking at many aspects of what's happening in the immune system because it's not well understood. For example, looking at T-cell differentiation, which we heard about quite a bit today. We also learned about some aspects of the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system that are involved in looking at hepatitis C virus or influenza or bacterial infections. So just gaining more knowledge so that I'm able to apply more of that, and also looking at the structure of the mathematical models that have been presented so that I can involve that into my work.
To me, this looks like a premier meeting on modeling viral infections and immunity. My interest was to see what is at the cutting edge in the field and also to present some of our own work at the meeting.
What are your highlights from this evening session?
Well, I have a highlight from all of the talks because they were all very interesting. Like looking at the different pathways of differentiation and proliferation for CD8 T cells. It was just really interesting, especially since I'm interested in looking at with CD4 T cells. The talk by Narendra on hepatitis C virus with the new therapies and interferon. And then the co-infections with a virus and a bacteria. So that's not the only type of co-infection where you have a virus and a bacteria working together synergistically. Like, for example, you can extend to chronic infections with HIV and tuberculosis. So that's of interest. And then finally looking at malaria, which is also very complex. So you can look at all the simple models and the complex models and tie them all together and get a really good picture of in-host modeling.
Yeah, after that exposition, I don't have much to add, but I might say to me, the highlight was that there was diversity in the problems that got addressed and of the approaches that were taken to address them, and yet they were all tied together by this theme of trying to deal with infectious diseases using computational approaches in collaboration with experiments, and that could be done successfully over these wide ranges of problems and topics was, I think, something interesting to me.
Can you tell us a bit more about the collaboration?
Successful collaborations happen with shared goals and the recognition of complementary skills. If there are problems that require approaches from diverse disciplines, then collaborations happen naturally. I don't know what other special considerations you have. It's also easy, of course, if people are more proximally located, but then sometimes in today's world with all the podcasts, etc. going on, it's probably easy as well to collaborate with people far away. These meetings provide a wonderful opportunity to meet people with diverse skills but with shared goals, and therefore provide an avenue for striking new collaborations.
So I would also like to say that it's really important that people go into a collaboration being open-minded and not without one direction, saying I want this, I want that, but actually understanding what the other person can bring to the collaboration as well, and not just performing something for someone else.
That's really interesting. We are going to move to the last segment to motivate PhD students and young researchers in the field. We did not have much question from PhD students to the speaker during the presentations. people are a bit shy?
I think certainly it's in part shy, but it's also the breadth and the depth that are both here at this workshop. So you may be someone that has depth in one area and maybe are being firstly introduced to something new at this workshop, because there's been a very wide variety of topics that have been covered. And so like someone who might ask a question about malaria might not know anything about HCV.
I think students sometimes feel that they might be asking something very basic, which they perhaps would eventually figure out when they gain the depth and the breadth that Jane talked about. But I feel that no question is to be left out. I think students must pull up the courage and not be worried about how people would judge them if they perceive their question as being far too basic, and ask the questions, and in the process I think everybody gains.
And that's a good point. And that being said too, I have noticed that there's been quite a bit of discussion, informal discussion at the coffee breaks and at the meals and at the poster sessions. So maybe sometimes just being a one-on-one interaction is more comfortable.
All right. I would say that at this point, some student can be at the stage of finishing their PhD or looking for other career perspectives. So what can you say to motivate them?
So I would like to say keep your goals, have some direction, but also understand that sometimes different avenues do take you to some interesting questions, and the whole point of finishing a PhD and moving on to a postdoc, or maybe going to work in industry or in academia, is that you're open to research and you're open to questions, and that you have some tools that you can use to tackle something, but that to understand that you're a lifelong learner and that you can always learn new things.
I think students and postdocs should pursue careers in areas that they are passionate about. As far as this area is concerned, I feel there is a wealth of problems that one can be passionately attracted to. The fact that this meeting has brought together more than 120 people all interested in problems that are being discussed here talks of the richness that this field has to offer. Besides, I've noticed that unlike some other communities, this community is exceedingly open. They're welcoming of new people, and I feel that is a pleasure, therefore, to interact with members of this community. These are all the positives that are associated with this group. Also, the problems can have significant potential impact in the end, because they're all looking at health and disease, and those can also be motivations for people to pursue problems in this area.
I felt very welcome in this community, and I guess that's the motivation why I'm here for this conference as well. In your teaching, how do you stimulate that motivation? How do you stimulate that excitement?
So in part, I show excitement when I'm teaching about the different tools that you get to use, even if they're very basic. I just like to show them new questions that they can look at, and how even simple models can be used to address some of these questions.
I usually find that students get excited by two things. One is the ability of the approaches of the field to solve significant problems. For example, I usually narrate in the class the impact that the basic model of HIV dynamics has had on treating HIV patients, and that up to 30,000 lives were saved because of the advocation of combination therapy over earlier treatments in countries as affluent as the US, where healthcare is easily accessible. So these kinds of things that models can achieve in collaboration with experimentalists naturally excite students. The other, of course, is the challenge that somebody feels when there is complexity that a field has to offer, when one's own ability to solve problems is raised to a new level because of the complexity that is on offer and that is necessary to be addressed. I think both these aspects to me offer interesting challenges and excitement to students.
My last question would be, what's your why? What keeps you going when things are difficult? What keeps you going when grant applications are not accepted? What keeps you going?
My why is a want. It's a want to understand and a want to help, and just a want to make a difference.
I think I share Jane's why. I do feel that going down this route potentially has the ability to influence the lives of people. And the other, of course, is the sheer excitement of being in the area. I like it.
All right. Thank you very much for this podcast. Thank you for your participation. And I wish you all the best for the rest of this conference. Cheers.
Thank you.